Hey everyone, Amia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to take an overview of the astrology of the week ahead from June 17th till June 23rd, 2025. And there's lots of things going on again, as always, honestly, I feel like, but especially just this year. There's just so many monumental shifts that are going on in the air, and I don't know how you guys are feeling because we are kind of coming off from this intense weekend with the Mars-Uranus square and Jupiter-Saturn square. Personally, I feel quite tired. Even just recording this today is taking up more energy than usual. So I'm wondering how you guys are feeling, how you guys are doing. Even today, we are still feeling the after effects of all of this because both of them are still in a separation engagement range. The moon is in Aquarius today, kind of amplifying that, like almost like the T-square between Mars in Leo and Uranus in Taurus. So there's still some after effects, but I do just feel a lot like tiredness is kind of coming in. There was just, especially when Mars and Uranus are in the mix, or Mars and Pluto usually, there's like this buildup of this intense energy, and after it wanes, it almost feels like a post-nut energy. That's the best way I can describe it. Or if you think about it as a volcano that is about to erupt, right before it erupts, there's some kind of nervousness in the air, like you feel the tension, something big is about to happen. Then it happens, that is the explosion. Afterwards, like what are the after effects of that now? Obviously, globally, I'm not on this channel, I don't really focus so much on mundane astrology or political stuff, but it's very hard to ignore how much political stuff was up in the air over this weekend. I think it was more related to Saturn, Jupiter, just because Saturn, Jupiter always do very like monumental societal shifts when they come together in any sort of aspect. I do think with Mars Uranus in the mix, it just brought in more violence than maybe usual. At the same time, I think Jupiter is just so strong right now, and there is some sort of hope like underneath all of that is still like carrying us. I mean, there's a reason they say hope dies last. So Jupiter is in a strong good position right now, and I do feel like the abundance of Jupiter is prevailing in the shadows, carrying all of this with just a feeling of like, yes, like there's gonna be some sort of good outcome, which I think we need right now. I think I really like both of the benefic planets being in a good position right now, because it almost feels like a saving grace, like a safety blanket that they are putting around us, because otherwise the astrology was kind of a bit bleak, Mars Uranus can be a bit bleak, can be a bit intense, can be pretty violent. So I do like that this was coming along, and again, Monday is just kind of like going off from that, because again, Mars out of all the planets in this mix is the most fastest moving one, and Mars is also just about to enter the sign of Virgo. So this is the first step we're going to feel, but both like Saturn and Jupiter, like we're going to feel this a little bit more. It's going to take like about a week or so for them to like move out of engagement range. So we're still very much coming off from that on Monday. And again, that's why I also kind of like that there aren't any significant other transits happening on Monday, because we can just like integrate that a bit more and maybe take some time to rest. I do feel like this week resting is more important than usual. Also, later on Monday, the moon is entering the sign of Pisces. Also, excuse me, this time around, I'm having notes again. I'm a bit more prepared again this week around, so this is why I'm looking here at my screen right now, just so I say everything that I want to say. And I do feel like the moon in Pisces is a nice invitation just to soften that blow a bit more after the intensity, and just kind of ask us like, how are we integrating what just broke open over this weekend or happened, like in our personal lives, but also globally. There's just lots going on, and Uranus has not yet entered the sign of Gemini, but I do feel like the social unrest is already up in the air. Probably because we are in Gemini season, of course. And yeah, Jupiter still also newly just moved into the sign of Cancer. And we just had our Gemini Decans workshop this yesterday. Yeah, this Sunday. It was yesterday. I just feel like so much happened. So I'm like, damn. And we were talking, like I made a whole segment of talking about all the decans of Gemini through Jupiter's journey through that, because it's still very recent. And Uranus is about to follow. But Uranus is going to be in that first decan of Gemini for a pretty long time. So from like 2025 till 2028. So around 3 years. That's a pretty long time for, having one planet in one decan. Obviously, it's the slower moving planets. They're going to be longer in one decan. But that first decan of Gemini, actually, guys, let me show you the, gotta be careful here. All the decans have tarot cards associated with them. And all the all the decans of Gemini are, let me actually just show you all the cards. It's the swords, okay? The swords units are ruled by the air sign. And these are the Gemini decans. So, not the most fun cards to get when you're pulling them. The first decan of Gemini is ruled by the Eight of Swords. Can you see that in a good way? I hope the light is not reflecting too much. But as you see, this person is in a sort of bondage. And this is like all the Gemini decans talk very much about the burden of the decision-making process of the mind and how this can take a big toll on us. And it almost feels a bit like analysis paralysis, and then Uranus comes in the mix, amplifying this even more in that first decan. So there is a big social unrest component. On our personal lives, there might be a big unrest within our head. Like it's a very head-heavy energy. Gemini is very head-heavy in that sense. Sometimes we can analyze too much and forget that, hey, we have a body. It's also important to be in the body and realize how our thoughts, what is this up here doing in this down here? There sometimes seems to be a bit of a disconnect. And oftentimes, again, having too many choices can be a burden in and of itself. A lot of the burdens of Gemini are just being I want to do so much in my lifetime, and it's hard for me to accept the fact that I can't do everything in this lifetime. It's a lot of, if you know the fig tree analogy of Sylvia Plath, it's very much that. Obviously Virgo is there too, but no coincidence, Mercury also rules over Virgo and the Gemini. So there seems to be the dichotomy of Gemini is so much I need to make choices because otherwise time will just pass, and inevitably not doing something is a choice as well. And that really gets to Gemini. I constantly have to make choices. And making choices can be hard because it's very overwhelming. And with social media in and of itself, it's even more overwhelming. At least that's what it often feels like for me. There's just more options. And it's almost an illusion of options. But it feels overwhelming. And you're oh, well, where should I go? Take a look at this advice. Where should I, what should I learn? And there's a constant urge for learning. And then eventually it's okay, but what do I do with that knowledge? And you can almost be overwhelmed by the knowledge you have because you're not really doing so much with it. So this is what I have to say here. I know this week Uranus is not yet in Gemini, but we are just coming off from that workshop, and that was just so fresh in my mind. So it feels relevant to say it almost as a preview. And then on Tuesday, June 17th, we have the Sun in Gemini sextiling Chiron and Aries. So there does feel that's in the third decan, right? It's a bit later on, but still there feels to be like, how should I say this? There's like what I wrote here is momentary clarity around how to speak or contextualize some sort of wounding. There's like once we make the choice, or let me put it this way, to heal a wound, we first have to acknowledge that it is one. That can be hard in and of itself, because then we accept the pain we have been kind of avoiding for a long time, probably. At the same time, this can bring some sort of clarity, because then you're like, aha, this is a wound. Now, how can I heal it? It's almost as if like the options only come up once you acknowledge the fact that it is a wound. So I do feel like that might be something that is happening on Tuesday this week. And then we also have Mars entering Virgo. This means that Mars is influenced by what Mercury is doing. And Mercury is still in Cancer this week, even though it's also soon going to move into Leo. But for now, for this week, we still have Mercury in the sign of Cancer. So there is an interesting dichotomy going on here again, of just like, it's a Mars that is more head heavy. At the same time, it invites us to contextualize it through our emotions that we are feeling in our bodies. I like that. I think it's a good place for Mars with where Mercury is right now to kind of be in. And then when Mercury enters Leo, it's going to be more bold and assertive once again. But right now, it feels like Mars is almost getting a bit of a shift in like this introverted tone of being more analytical again, but basing it around like, how does this actually feel in my body? This is really the big question, especially with both benefics, Jupiter being in Cancer and Venus also still being in Taurus. It's really so much about how does it make me feel? What are the senses that are going on in my body? So, there's definitely more like precision as well with Mars and Virgo, and just thinking more about how we are pursuing actions. It almost feels like it needs to be true to, like, it just needs to fit in with our nervous system. Let's put it that way. So I do kind of like Mars's direction right now, even if it's simmering a bit down and getting a bit more quieter. But there's so many other there's still so much fire going on, but from Saturn and Neptune. So I like it, I honestly like it. Then on Wednesday, June 18th, we have the last quarter moon in Pisces. Nothing else is going on astrologically, so another like kind of integration day, I would say, or a day for release and sort of preparation, because on Thursday, June 19th, then the moon enters Aries, and this is the first time that the moon in Aries meets Saturn. Because last cycle when the moon was in Aries, Saturn was still in Pisces. So this is the first time the moon and Saturn are meeting in the sign of Aries. So this is something new again in our life. So I feel like there's like a new emotional tone for like how we are setting our boundaries, especially when it comes to our emotional words, like how far are we letting somebody in? How far are we opening up to other people? There's almost like it invites us to be more mature about how we are doing these things, especially in the impulsive sign of Aries, which is like new to us, right? It's a bit new to us. A lot of the parts that Aries rules in our charts are really getting a maturity boost, which is very unfamiliar with Saturn there, since Saturn is in a fallen position. Like we're almost kind of being forced to grow up and mature in this area that doesn't come so easy to us, that likes to be young and youthful. And then with the moon entering this Aryan sign as well, it's almost like, okay, like let's be emotionally maybe a bit more mature about certain decisions that we are making and not so impulsive anymore. So yeah, that might be good. If you're used to it, it's definitely not a hard energy if it's something you struggle with. might not be the easiest transit. And then what we also have on Thursday is Jupiter in Cancer is then going to square Neptune in Aries. Since, you know, both of them are super close. There is a big, right now, the emphasis is very much on the first decan of Aries and the first decan of Cancer. Or if you want to put it in other words, the first 10 degrees of Aries and the first 10 degrees of Cancer. And what do we have there? Jupiter is there. Soon the Sun will also enter Cancer. And we have Saturn and Neptune at the beginning degrees of Aries. So there's a bit of an agglomeration in these two signs. So, you know, Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. There's like a tension, I feel like, between both of them meeting, between emotional security, like what do I kind of need to feel safe in this world? Because the expansion that comes from Jupiter in Cancer especially is like, the expansion can only come once I feel actually comfortable. Real healing can only occur once we are in safety, in genuine safety. And so there is a bit of like, there might be a bit of like spiritual disillusionment and confusion in what that constitutes of. If there's a certain belief we've held, which is like Jupiter, right, about how to go on about certain thing, Neptune coming in the mix is like, okay, but does this have like, can this actually be applied in a realistic manner? Or is it just some like kind of woo-woo concept you're having out there that doesn't have any like real life tangible steps to actually like hold this or like go to a direction that you want to head in that constitutes a feeling of safety and this shell. So we might really get like what I write here, like watch for inflated hopes or unclear beliefs. You know, I think that's just very important. Like what is truly nourishing versus what is illusory. Ask yourself that around Thursday this week. Is there something else I want to say with that? I'm just thinking. I do think there is a lot of that just up in the air right now, especially also with mental health and like how we are going on about mental health and doing things. There's just like a lot of content out there, and I know it's can be overwhelming because it's like this person says this person says that, this helped them, this helped someone else, somebody's very like, oh, everything has to be based on science, everybody's like, no, it does not. And sometimes it's so hard to be like, what actually like fits for us. I think one major thing that can give us an indication is how does it make us feel in our body? Like, is it conducive to a sense of feeling more safe in our body, or does it make us less ungrounded? This is a big question to ask there. And like I'm coming here from a place of, if I reflect back on my whole journey with dealing with endometriosis and all of that. In case you're new to my channel, maybe you didn't know, there's still a video I want to make, goddamn, about all of this, because I had my surgery during, like, this whole process with, like, actually finally getting the surgery was one that happened with this Mars retrograde in the sign of Cancer. And I kind of want to make a story time about all of this. But it goes like way back, right? Because that's like not when I got the diagnosis. I got the diagnosis like way before that. And there's many things that I tried to do here, which came from a place of, and I still believe a lot of our dis-ease comes from the mind or comes from trauma. And then like it's too much. And so our body tries the best to adapt, but then like it doesn't, or it's too much, and then it becomes a dis-ease, right? Like a dis-ease in the body. It's not ease, it's dis-ease. So I do still believe absolutely that there is a mental component to how we overcome all of this. Like it has to be a mind, soul, body connection for actual healing to occur. At the same time, I was also, I think, taking things too far at a certain point. where I was like, desperate. Like every month I was like sitting and trying to hold the pain. I was not taking any painkillers. I was like, I need to hold this pain because I haven't accepted this pain. Like I need to hold it now. And I think eventually it just got a bit too far where it was just like, I don't think there is a purpose anymore to hold this. Like I learned the lesson of holding pain. How much longer do I have to keep on doing this now? And there was also something in me that just felt like I was, I don't know how else to put it. Like I just failed by, I don't know, going to the medical system or something like that. Like I wasn't able to do it on my own account because, you hear these amazing stories how people were able to heal their diseases with changing their mind and their thoughts and all that. And I'm like, I don't know why I can't do it. Like I feel like I'm putting in so much work and it's just not changing. I do think in a way there was just too much bitterness or something inside of me that it was just like, at this point, it's like just there needs to be an intervention and like a very clear cut one, Mars like cutting, which was the operation. And so there was a lot of hesitancy for many years of doing that. And I feel like that for me goes a bit here into all of this, where it's like, how conducive are our beliefs, And now after the operation, I sincerely feel so much better. And there's like no regrets, I still think it's very important that I did all these steps before that. And at the same time, I also obviously still question, like, could have this just been prevented if I sooner tried to just do the operation instead of feeling like, oh, I need to do this from my own account or something like that. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say here with all of this. So yeah, like what is truly nourishing to our body? And for me, it was actually getting the operation. And there was nothing wrong with that. And this was a spiritual process at the end in and of itself. And sometimes we just need to make clear cuts, Saturn is there still too. Sometimes we need to set clear boundaries and be like, no, not anymore. I'm not carrying this freaking burden anymore. And there needs to be some radical changes happening. If I want to establish a sense of safety in my body and around me, I need to take actionable steps. This is very much like Jupiter in Cancer squaring Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries. We need to take actionable steps. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. Like, you create safety by creating safety. It doesn't just come naturally. Anyhow, this was way longer than I wanted to talk about this, but I hope this little story was useful. By the way, if you guys have any sort of stories, transit stories, type them down below. I'm happy to read them. If you feel uncomfortable sharing things in the comments for other people to see, also, like, shoot me a DM or write me a mail, because I sincerely like reading transit stories. It's like the base of astrology for me, because that's where the astrology happens, and it's in our real life. So anyhow, then on Friday, June 20th, there are no major transits again. So another integration process. Or it's just easier to like integrate what is going on right now. And then on Saturday, June 21st, Moon enters Taurus. Love that, with Venus in Taurus. And then also the Sun enters Cancer. We have the summer solstice. At least here in the northern hemisphere, we are officially entering summer. It's the longest day of the year. At the same time, it's also interesting because even though we're entering summer, we are technically also entering a period where slowly the days are beginning to get shorter again. So we are entering the dark of the light part of the year. Almost a tongue twister. But yeah, we're officially beginning Cancer season. There's not so much to say about this right now as much as there is to say about next week, because there's things happening. Also, what's happening on Saturday is Mercury in Cancer is trining the North Node in Pisces, which feels there's just like an added sense of like intuitiveness or like emotional like finding clarity through our emotions, like synchronicities type of thing, aligning with our purpose through, I don't know, hearing the right words from somebody or getting the right messages. That's what this also feels like. I do feel like Saturday is quite a magical day with like Moon in Taurus, Venus in Taurus, the Sun enters Cancer, then this beautiful like Mercury trine North Node thing going on. I really like Saturday. I feel like that's maybe my most favorite day of the week, astrology wise at least. And then on Sunday, June 22nd, we have Mars in Virgo, sextiling Jupiter in Cancer. Again, this is a more harmonizing aspect, so which feels like embodied action meets nurturing expansion, good for making real progress in health, work, and service. So again, lots of everything that we are feeling is just getting an actionable step plan. So I like that. Sun in Cancer is then squaring Saturn in Aries. Of course, every planet that is entering Cancer is now engaging with Saturn and Neptune. So it feels like there's a clash between like personal needs and responsibility and duty. It almost feels like a testing point, you could say, of just, like how much are you willing to, especially like from maybe like a relational perspective, like how much do I need to step up for myself and how much do I actually need to invest in like being responsible and having duty. This can be like a question, like where being asked to, I don't know, like kind of like grow up emotionally and just like take the responsibility, if I can put it that way. Because emotions have time and place and they're important. At the same time, there's also like sometimes we need to put responsibility first. Okay, maybe you have kids, you're just like, okay, you can't just like have a breakdown right now. Maybe you're at work, it's like, okay, maybe not right now is not the best time to cry. That doesn't mean that you're gonna suppress your emotions and never feel them ever again. No, it just means like right now we're being mature and we're putting that aside. I will take care of how I'm feeling today evening, and I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna let this wind down and take time and space to nurture myself. I feel like this is the best type of interplay between like Sun and Cancer squaring Saturn and Aries. And this is kind of what we're ending this week on. But this is really, the Sun in Cancer is obviously also going to form a square to Neptune in Aries. And then what is also happening is that the Sun is going to conjoin Jupiter in Cancer. This is a Cazimi moment. So while this week is ending, the astrology is obviously not. I just wanted to give a brief like preview of all of that. But there is loads of Cancer energy, Cancer Aries energy in the air right now. And like just, the Sun, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune are at interplay right now. They're like the key players right now, it feels like. So I feel like this is what I have for this week for you guys. Let me know down in the comments how you are feeling. Also, I'm sorry, I'm keeping it a bit shorter today just because I am sincerely a bit tired. I've been having like so many intense, vivid dreams these past 2 days. So I do feel like I also just need to, take the wisdom of Venus in Taurus and take it a bit slower this time around. And this is what I'm doing. I'm like, it's summertime here now, so when it's hot enough, I go and take a swim in the lake. So grounding. I go out and walk in nature and like preferably without listening to anything. Just listening to the sounds of nature. Like I have my phone with me just in case, but I try to not listen to any sort of music or podcasts and not fill my brain with even more information. In the morning, I do yoga practices every day, but it is a mix between like yoga and also like a bit of strength training. And I try to not take my phone because you know, sometimes it is that damn phone. I try to not take my phone for like the first hour and focus on that. I usually also make a tea in the morning or drink some like hot lemon water with a bit of salt. This is what I do. And then I eat like a very nourishing protein and fat rich breakfast that keeps me satiated for at least like 3 or 4 hours. All of this helps me to ground myself. I also have like regulating nervous system practices. I really like tapping. It helps a lot, you know, like the tapping techniques. I also like to just like shake out myself. And what else? Yeah, you know, I'm a Gemini moon, so I do, and like a Mercury in Sagittarius, so I do struggle a lot with like intellectualizing my emotions and feelings. So personally, I need lots of things that make me feel like it's okay to get back into the body. And at the same time, sometimes I fail to realize that it is my responsibility to do it. Like, I have to carve out the space and be like, hey, okay, now I will just lay on my bed and do a body scan or something for the next half an hour. And sometimes that can feel scary. It can almost feel a bit dysregulating, because it almost feels like if I just lay down and rest, like something bad's gonna happen. And there's like a constant reminder of like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like, actually a lot more good things will happen if I take that space to do that. So if that's something you're struggling with, I highly recommend doing that. Maybe you have other placements in your chart, so it's a lot easier for you to access that. This is not just talking from my perspective. But again, I can just reiterate it, because with Uranus and Gemini, it's gonna be even harder to stay grounded and not land in like information overload sensation. So yeah, this is what I have for you guys. I'll see you guys soon. I hope you have a lovely week ahead, and sending you much love. Bye.